When I let my neighbor's son store his tools in my garage, I didn't expect him to change the locks and claim squatters' rights. When I demanded he leave, he laughed. Possession is 9/10, right? I called the police, but they said they couldn't remove him without a court order. As I looked through the window, I saw him. I'm a 63-year-old widow living in Southgate, Michigan. Quiet neighborhood. Most of the people on this street have been here for decades. My late husband, Joe, passed away 8 years ago, and I've lived alone ever since. I keep to myself mostly. I take care of my house, mow my own lawn, and try to mind my business. Joe was a mechanic. That garage of ours, it was his domain. Still is, in my eyes. After he died, I didn't touch much in there. His tools stayed on the pegboard. His workbench still smells like grease and sawdust. I dust it, sweep the floor, and keep it like a shrine, I guess you could say. It's not about sentimentality. It's about respect. Late last summer, my next-door neighbor Ray, who I've known for over 20 years, told me his son, Cody, was moving back in with him. Cody had just gone through a divorce and was, in Ray's words, a little lost right now. I remembered Cody from years back. He was always a fast-talking, cocky kind of kid, but he never caused me any trouble, so I didn't think much about it. About a week later, Cody knocked on my door. Had a sad puppy face and everything. "Miss Randall," he said, "I'm trying to get a little mechanic business going, just some side work. Problem is, I got no place to keep my tools, and Dad's garage is packed with junk. Do you think I could maybe store a few toolboxes in your garage for a while?" I asked him what kind of work he'd be doing, and how often he'd be in and out. "Just tune-ups. Maybe brake jobs. I promise, I'll stay out of the way. I'll only take a corner. Just till I get some cash and rent a shop." I hesitated. But I looked at that face, thought about how Joe would have helped a guy trying to get back on his feet, and I said yes. I told him straight, "You can use the back wall. That's it. Don't move anything. Don't bring people over. No living out of here." "Of course. Just tools," he said, all friendly and thankful. First couple of weeks, it was fine. He brought over a few heavy tool chests, set them along the back. He'd come over a few days a week, work on cars in his dad's driveway, and clean up after himself. I even brought him a sandwich once. I remember telling myself, see? Helping people is still worth it. But things started getting odd around the holidays. One day, I noticed a folding chair in there. Then a sleeping bag. Then I heard music playing in the middle of the night coming from the garage. I knocked on the door one morning, and he opened it looking like he just woke up. "You sleeping in there?" I asked. He laughed and said, "Just once or twice. It's quieter than Dad's place." I told him that wasn't part of the deal. He apologized, said it wouldn't happen again. I should have cut it off right there, but I didn't. I just wanted to avoid drama. In January, my daughter in Colorado had surgery, and I flew out to help with her kids for 2 weeks. Before I left, I texted Cody and told him I'd be gone, so he needed to make sure the garage was locked when he left. He replied with a thumbs up. When I got back, it was snowing. I was exhausted. Pulled into my driveway and immediately noticed something was off. The garage door had a new keypad. I got out and tried my keys. None of them worked. Not the side door, not the back. I started to panic a little. Tried calling Cody. No answer. I walked around the house, got the little step stool from my laundry room, and looked into the garage window. That's when I saw it. My garage. The space Joe worked in for 30 years, looked like a hobo shelter. Couch. Space heater. Mattress. Empty soda cans. Fast food bags. A microwave. Cody was sitting in there, wearing headphones, leaned back like it was his apartment. My husband's workbench was covered in greasy wrappers. I banged on the glass, furious. He looked up like I'd interrupted his piece and came over to the window, smiling like a damn game show host. I shouted, "Open the door." "You changed the locks?" He leaned close to the glass and said, "Possession is 9/10, right?" I swear to God I almost kicked that window in. I went inside, shaking with anger, and called the cops. They came out. I showed them everything, pictures, texts, the deed. Told them I never gave him permission to live there. Just to store tools. That it was my property. That I wanted him out. But the officer looked at me and said, "Unfortunately, ma'am, since he's established use of the space and changed the locks, you'll need to go through the court to have him removed." "He's not a tenant," I yelled. "He's a squatter now," the younger cop said. "You need to file for eviction." "Are you serious?" They were dead serious. I stood there while they told me I couldn't even break the lock to get in because that would be considered retaliation. They left, and I sat at my kitchen table for over an hour, just staring at my coffee cup. I kept thinking about how Joe used to say, "Never let people get too comfortable. That's when they take advantage." And that's what this was. A kid who thought I was too old and too soft to fight back. He was wrong. I didn't go to bed that night. I stayed up reading everything I could about Michigan squatter laws. I took notes. Called a lawyer. Made appointments. And while I worked on the legal side, I started another plan. Because if Cody thought he could steal from me without a price, he hadn't met the real me yet. I didn't sleep for days after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Cody's smug little grin through that garage window. He'd invaded my space, disrespected my husband's memory, and laughed in my face like I was some helpless old lady. I wasn't. I started with the lawyer. Her name was Marianne. Tough, middle-aged woman, knew her stuff. When I told her everything, she didn't even flinch. "This happens more than people realize," she said. "The laws are made to protect tenants, even fake ones. But we'll get him out." She filed for a formal eviction right away. Told me it could take a few weeks, maybe longer if Cody fought it. But I wasn't going to sit around and wait. First, I called the power company and had them shut off the separate breaker that ran to the garage. Cody had run an extension cord into the house through a side panel, but I had that panel disconnected and locked. No more heat. No more power. That was step one. The next day, he came knocking on my front door. I didn't open it. Just stood behind the deadbolt. "You cut the power," he yelled. "You can't do that." I said, "It's my house. My bills. Get out of my garage." He cursed at me. Said he'd sue. Said I was violating tenant rights. I said, "You're not a tenant. You're a squatter. And I'm not scared of you." Then I hung up the phone while he was still screaming. He started leaving trash in my driveway. Not just little things, bags of food, car parts, old oil containers. Like a child throwing a tantrum. I reported every piece to code enforcement. Started keeping a log. Took photos, wrote down times. Marianne told me the more records I had, the better my case would look. But Cody wasn't stupid. He knew how to play just below the radar. He started inviting his friends over. Loud music. Smoking weed right outside the garage. Some nights I could hear them laughing at 2 a.m. One night I saw a woman walk out of there, half-dressed, like it was some kind of flop house. I called the cops every time, but they always said the same thing, "We'll make a report, ma'am, but unless we catch them breaking the law, there's not much we can do." It was like living in a nightmare. Then, 2 weeks in, Ray, Cody's dad, finally came over. He looked embarrassed. Said he didn't know it had gotten this bad. "I thought he was just working on a car," he mumbled. "Didn't know he was staying in there." I stared him dead in the eye. "He changed the locks, Ray. He's sleeping on my husband's workbench. Don't play dumb." Ray rubbed the back of his neck. I'll talk to him. He doesn't need to talk, I said. He needs to get the hell out. Ray didn't say anything. Just walked off, slow and defeated. I don't know if he even tried. That night, Cody left a little surprise on my porch. A used oil pan. Leaking all over the concrete. I stood there looking at it, shaking. And then I decided something. I wasn't going to play nice anymore. The legal route was moving too slow, so I started turning up the pressure. I posted photos of the garage on Facebook, pictures from the window, the mess he left, the mattress, the trash. I didn't name him, but everyone on my block knew exactly who it was. The post blew up. Neighbors started asking questions. 2 people told me they'd had issues with Cody before. One said he tried to scam them on a brake job. Another said he borrowed a jack and never returned it. The best part? One of them worked for the city inspector's office. Next thing I know, I've got a visit from code enforcement. Turns out you can't legally live in a detached garage in Southgate, especially not one without heat, plumbing, or a permit. They issued a warning. Cody ignored it. So they issued a violation. Still, he didn't leave. But he got a lot quieter. The friends stopped coming around. The music stopped. I think he knew something was closing in. But I wasn't done. I started digging into his past. Found out he'd been in small claims court before, twice. Once for unpaid rent, once for damages to a landlord's property. And that little mechanic business he claimed to be running? He had no license. No insurance. Nothing. So I made one more phone call. To a friend of my husband's, Tommy, a retired cop who now worked with a local attorney who handled fraud and unlicensed business cases. Within a week, Cody got hit with another surprise, a cease and desist for running an unlicensed auto repair business on residential property. That's when the yelling started. He came to my door at 11 p.m., banging like a maniac. "You think this is funny?" he screamed. "You trying to ruin my life?" I stood at the door with my phone recording. "I already told you, Cody. Get out of my garage." He spat on the porch. I saved the video and sent it to Marianne. Now I had harassment on record. At that point, I wasn't even angry anymore. I was focused. This wasn't just about a garage. This was about making sure he never did this to anyone again. Because some people only learn when the consequences hit them right between the eyes. And I was about to make sure Cody got hit, hard. About a week after the cease and desist letter hit him, things got real quiet. No music. No friends. No trash in my driveway. Cody kept to himself, barely came in or out of the garage. At first, I thought maybe the pressure had finally gotten to him and he was planning to leave. Maybe he realized he'd pushed the wrong person. But I was wrong. He was just regrouping. One morning I came outside and saw a car I didn't recognize parked in front of my house. It was a black Dodge Charger. Windows tinted, sitting low to the ground. A guy I'd never seen before was leaning on it, smoking, staring at my house like he was waiting for someone. I stood there on the porch for a minute, just watching him. He didn't wave. Didn't nod. Just kept staring. I walked back inside and locked the door. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. When I played it back, it was a deep voice I didn't recognize. "You're gonna back off, Cody, or you're gonna wish you did. People like you don't know how far this can go." I replayed it 3 times, just sitting at my kitchen table in the dark. That's when I realized, this wasn't just about a garage anymore. Cody was mixed up in something worse. And now I was in the middle of it. I called Marianne first thing the next morning and played her the voicemail. She told me to file a police report right away, which I did. The officer who came by was the same younger guy from the first visit. He listened, shook his head, and told me they'd log it, but unless the man made a direct threat or tried to harm me, it was still gray area. I asked him straight up, so he has to hit me before you'll take it seriously? He didn't answer. That's when I decided to get cameras. I installed 4, one pointing at the garage, one at my front porch, one over the driveway, and one inside the kitchen window facing out. I also posted a big sign on the fence that said property under 24-hour surveillance. I uploaded everything to the cloud, kept backups on USB sticks. I wasn't playing games anymore. Then the real twist came. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. Not from the court, not from the city, but from an insurance company. Apparently, Cody had taken out a policy on his garage workshop and claimed it was a rental property. He even listed my address on the form. Said he was paying me rent to run his business out of the space. He'd submitted fake receipts, made up rental agreements, and now he was trying to collect damages for interruption of business after the cease and desist order. I nearly dropped the letter when I read it. He was trying to scam an insurance company using my property. I called Marianne again, faxed her everything. She was quiet for a minute on the phone, then said, "This isn't just squatting anymore. He's committing fraud." I'm calling in a friend at the DA's office. The wheels started turning fast after that. A week later, 2 detectives came to my door. They asked me to confirm everything. Ownership. Timeline. The contents of the garage. I gave them all my photos, my video recordings, even my Facebook post. They took it all. And then something incredible happened. The following morning, Cody got arrested. Right in front of the garage. It wasn't even for trespassing, it was insurance fraud. Apparently, he had tried this stunt once before, in another county. Lied on forms, made up documents, and tried to cash out on a phony damage claim. The guy in the Charger? Turns out he was part of the same little ring, guys who pulled small-time fraud schemes, mostly targeting older property owners. They'd look for widows or folks who lived alone, convince them to store something or rent out a corner, then slowly take over the space and use it for scams. It all started coming together. Cody hadn't just been freeloading, he'd been setting me up. The trash, the mattress, even that business license story, it was all part of a larger plan. And if I hadn't documented every step, he probably would have gotten away with it. After he was taken away, the police let me unlock the garage again, with their supervision. What I saw made me sick. He'd gone through my husband's stuff. Tools missing. Boxes dumped out. Oil stains everywhere. Cigarette butts in Joe's old coffee mug. A picture of us, me and Joe at a car show in '96, ripped in half and tossed behind the workbench. I stood there shaking while one of the detectives patted my shoulder. "We'll get it all back," he said. But I knew we wouldn't. Some things you just don't get back. Still, I wasn't done. Because as satisfying as that arrest was, it wasn't the ending. Not yet. After Cody was arrested, I thought maybe, that would be the end of it. But it wasn't. Not yet. About a month later, I got a letter from his public defender. He was trying to argue that he had been living in the garage with my permission, and that I'd suddenly turned on him out of personal bitterness. He claimed he had verbal agreements and that I'd encouraged him to work there. Marianne was furious. She sent back a thick packet with all our evidence, photos, texts, videos, timestamps, police reports, the power shut off, the voicemail threat. She said, if they want to go to court, we'll bury him. And we did. At the hearing, Cody stood there in a wrinkled shirt, looking like a kicked dog. The judge didn't care for his attitude. She cut him off twice when he tried to lie. And when Marianne played the video of him yelling on my porch and spitting at my front step, the whole courtroom went dead silent. The judge leaned forward and said, "You have the nerve to call yourself a victim?" She ruled against him on all counts. Not only was the insurance fraud case going forward, but she added a restraining order, a trespassing conviction, and, best of all, restitution. Cody was ordered to pay for the damage he did to the garage. The missing tools, the cleanup, the ruined concrete from the oil pan. It added up to almost $12,000. He didn't have the money, of course. So the court started garnishing his wages. I didn't stop there. Remember that group he was involved with? The guy in the Charger? After Cody got arrested, the DA's office dug deeper and found out the group had targeted 3 other homeowners in Wayne County with the same scam. This time, they had hard evidence, texts, witness testimony, phone records. They got indicted. Cody was offered a plea deal, testify against the others in exchange for a shorter sentence. He took it. Still ended up doing 9 months in county jail. Lost his license to work in any mechanic shop after that. Couldn't get hired anywhere legit. Word got around quick in a town like Southgate. But I wasn't done yet. There was still one more person who needed to answer for all this, Ray, his father, my neighbor. The man who let his son squat on my property, then acted like it was none of his business. After the trial, I stopped speaking to him. Stopped waving. Stopped pretending we were neighbors. I built a tall wooden privacy fence between our 2 yards, paid out of my own pocket. And made damn sure it blocked the view of my house from every angle. Took a week to put up. Ray came out once and asked, "Is that really necessary?" I looked him dead in the eye and said, "You raised that boy. Now I'm raising this fence." He didn't say another word. A few months later, Ray's house went up for sale. Word was, he couldn't afford the taxes and repairs. I didn't feel bad. I watched from my kitchen window the day the moving truck pulled away. The lawn hadn't been mowed in weeks. The mailbox was crooked. The siding on the back of the house was peeling. They left behind a plastic chair and a cracked bird bath. I left it there. A little reminder of what happens when you let rot spread next door. As for me, I got my garage cleaned up. Replaced Joe's tools with newer ones, but kept his favorite wrench set, cleaned and mounted it on the wall with a plaque that says Joseph Randall, 1951 to 2017, still keeping things in order. The city sent me a letter thanking me for cooperating in the fraud case. Said the evidence I kept helped shut down a whole crew of scammers. That felt good. I even started getting little notes from people in town, some saying they'd been too scared to stand up for themselves, and my story gave them the courage to finally press charges against someone who wronged them. One woman even knocked on my door with tears in her eyes and said, "He tried to pull the same thing with me, but I said no because of what you went through." That hit me hard. You never think you'll be that person, the one others look to. But when someone breaks into your life and tries to steal what you love, you either let it go or you fight back. I chose to fight. And I'll say this now with no shame, I'm not a victim. I'm the woman who turned the tables. Cody thought he'd take over my garage and disappear with a few free tools. Instead, he lost his business, his name, his freedom, and his future. As for me? I sit out on my porch most mornings now, coffee in hand, eyes on that quiet driveway. No charger. No trash. No noise. Just peace. And the garage? It's mine again. Forever.